In this film on cacti and succulent cultivation, I'm going to be talking about growing plants from seed. And the reason for doing this is it's incredibly rewarding, and here is a good demonstration, an Echinopsis mirabilis, just a 2-year-old seedling in full flower tonight. The seeds themselves are a result of sexual reproduction in plants, whereby the parents' genes are combined and a new generation is created that preserves the characteristics of the two parents. So if we go back to the flowers, here's a beautiful Stapelia in flower, perhaps pollinated by insects. That's the starting point, and the results will then be the seeds that are contained in some kind of vessel. Now, it is possible for plants to be self-fertile sometimes, in which case there's just one parent, so the characteristics are just coming down from the one parent. But the vessels those seeds are contained in could be fruit. So here we have an epiphyllum with a lovely ripe purple fruit on it. Or it could be in seed pods. So here I have a delospermum that's covered in many small brown seed pods that are quite ripe. Another way is rather like dandelion clocks. So these are the miniature parachutes on a senecio. Serapesias do the same. So there's a number of different places the seeds are actually held within. And actually what I have found is sometimes the seedling plants appear out of nowhere as well. And to me that's one of the joys of gardening, is you never quite know what to expect. So for example, I bought a cacti about 3 years ago, and a small seedling started to germinate in the pot, which I let grow and then I potted up eventually. And this is actually a euphorbia plant for free, which was in the pot. I mentioned the Serapesia, which have similar dandelion clocks to a senecio, and at the base of this opuntia is a seedling Serapesia that's germinated within the pot. There's a lovely little corm developing. So sometimes there's surprises with seeds. Now, of course, you might want to collect your own seeds and grow them. And the opuntia actually is an example of one where I was on holiday on Sicily and I saw a beautiful pot with a small grown opuntia covered with flowers and fruit, and I harvested one of the fruit and collected the seed, sowed it, and this is about 4 years old now. So again, a nice memory of a holiday and a very healthy plant. So you can collect your own seed. Now, if you're going to do that, in most instances, you'll need to make sure the seed is ripe and then dried as well. So particularly fruit, so you'd extract the seed, maybe lay it on tissue paper, give it a chance to dry out to remove any of that flesh. Perhaps with a seed pod like this, when it's ripe, you would simply shake the seed into a container. You could make use of any containers, advertising Tic Tacs here, a specimen bottle even, maybe with a bit of tissue paper in to keep those seeds dry. And what's really important is to label the seeds that you've put in a container, because it's very easy to forget after some time, especially if you end up with lots of different seeds. And typically the seeds are sown in the springtime, so it might be you harvest them later on in the year and then you've got to save them for a few months. So you can harvest your own seed. In fact, this is worth looking at, if I can extract it. This Echinopsis, again 2-year-old seedling, flowered a few nights ago and it's already forming a fruiting body, which is wonderful. So it's a good way of regenerating these plants, which are actually quite short-lived. So that's good. And of course you can buy seed from garden centres and online. And I must do a plug for the British Cactus and Succulent Society. If you're a member of a society, they provide a list of seeds that are collected by members and are sold very cheaply, so you pay for postage, and at the time of doing this video it was about 30p for a pack of seeds. So a very good way of getting hold of perhaps unusual seeds. So one example, this is the spiral aloe polyphila, which I sowed 5 months ago, and I have 5 healthy plants now, so they're quite a size, 30p. So that's a real pleasure. So you can buy them from the BCSS. Now in terms of when to sow, the norm is to sow in the spring. The weather is warming up, the atmosphere is a little bit warmer, so the soils will be warmer and the seeds are more likely to germinate. However, for demonstration purposes, I've sown some plants a couple of weeks ago. These have come up very quickly. Now this is a succulent. It's Aptenia, which is this beautiful heart-shaped succulent with very small purple flowers, which in full sun do open. It's a lovely plant to start to grow from seed for beginners. And if you sow the seed on some compost, it germinates very quickly. In the summer, you can grow it outside in hanging baskets and troughs, but you can also grow it indoors. And because of the small size of the flowers, it lends itself to growing on a shelf in a bright sunny place like in a kitchen, and you can then enjoy the flowers close up. They quickly form into seed pods, very easy to extract the seed, and in this instance sowed straight away, and they've come up. So these are nearly ready for pricking out. The more normal time for sowing seeds is in the spring, so perhaps March or April time, to give them a chance. Now, the compost that we use is going to be a typical cacti and succulent compost, so it's very free draining, but perhaps even more free draining than normal, so add a bit more sand into it. It needs to be sterile. Seeds and young seedlings are very delicate and are particularly at risk to fungus and also to sciarid fly, little tiny gnat flies as well, whose maggots can eat the seedlings when they're at a very, very young stage. So to sterilise the soil, I would use an old pan or silver foil and put the soil in the oven and heat it to a high temperature, maybe 100 degrees C for an hour. And that will kill off any bugs or fungus that you've got in the soil. And then I would put that soil into a container. I quite often use square pots, as you can see here. It saves on space, which is really important for myself. I would sow the seed on top of the surface and normally just leave them on the top. If they're bigger seeds, maybe I'd bury them slightly to the depth of the seed. I'd use a spray before I sow the seeds and after, just to wet the compost. So rather than using a powerful jet of water from a watering can, it's very, very gentle, so we're not actually washing the seed away. And when it comes to watering, I would use the same method. Now the soil needs to be damp but not saturated. Again, if it's too wet, the seeds or small plants will rot. But they do like to be humid, so you could cover this with a plastic bag, or as in this case, I have little mini propagators, not heated, they work adequately. Or you could use a heated electric propagator as well. They have the advantage of giving a constant temperature. And I use all methods really with great success. What I should say is with growing seedlings, you will have successes and you will have failures. Now that might be nothing to do with what you've done. It could be that the seeds are just not viable. They might be really old. They could have been sitting around for a long time. There might be a problem with them. There could be some, again, fungus damage, insect damage to them that you won't be able to see. So don't be disappointed if something doesn't come up, but also be patient, because sometimes some seeds take a long time. So if you can afford to look at an empty pot for quite a few months, then hang on to it or put it into a corner out the way where you can't see it, because they still might come up. But some do come up quickly, and there are certain plants that are easier than others. And I would definitely recommend Echinopsis mirabilis, Mammillarias and Ributias, simply because they grow fast and they can flower at a young age. Many succulents are quite quick as well. I mentioned the aloe as well. Aloes and agaves, opuntias are all quite rapid growers. The Aptenia I talked about. So there's many plants that you can try. And again, the British Cactus and Succulent Society do sell these little leaflets as a pack, and they also give these away, I believe, to new members. And within that is a really detailed leaflet about seed raising, and it mentions some of the plants to grow and goes into more detail than I have this evening. I'm almost finished. I would just stress again, from learning from my own mistakes, is once you've planted your seeds, always label them, because it's very easy to forget what you've got, and the young plants can look remarkably similar. So label your plants up, and when you do pop them up, make sure you give each plant a label. In terms of potting them up, these small growing ones and slow growing ones I might leave for an entire year, whereas some, like the aloe, grew so fast that it's been potted up after about 3 months. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it's inspired you to grow more seed, and I've thoroughly enjoyed growing plants from seed, and hope you will as well, and look forward to seeing you at another time. Give this video a thumbs up, like it, please share it.